Alright, how's everybody doing this evening? Welcome back to another video. And tonight what I have for everyone is my full camera walkthrough, including the photo and the video samples for the Moto G9 Power. So in this video I'm going to take you through everything that you need to know about the cameras and the main camera interface on this device. And I'm going to share some things that I like and don't like about the setup. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach all of the photo samples that I have taken with this device, and then all of the video samples that I have taken with this device, and give y'all my overall thoughts on whether or not I can recommend this device strictly based off of its cameras. Y'all stay tuned to the end of the video for that one. But also, I want to let everyone know this whole video will be time-stamped for your convenience, so please feel free to check out the links down below in the video description so you can jump around to the different parts of the video that you would like to know more about. That being said, without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, starting off here, I just want to go over the ways that you can actually launch into the cameras on your Moto device. Now, way number one is pretty much an Android staple. So from the lock screen on your device, all you have to do is power on your display. Then in the bottom right hand corner, you're going to see a camera icon. If you swipe up on that icon, it will drop you into the main camera interface landing page on your Moto device. Way number two, and this is a Motorola staple, is the quick twist of the wrist, or as I like to call it, the flick of the wrist. If you double twist your wrist twice while holding the device, it will launch you directly into the cameras on your Moto device. And that pretty much has become a Motorola staple for Motorola devices. That's right up there with the chop gesture to turn on the flashlight, right? Now, if you do that again, that will take you into the front-facing camera. You do it again, it will take you into the rear-facing camera. But that is one of the staple ways that you can launch into cameras on your Moto device. So a quick twist of the wrist, or a flick of the wrist. And then finally, the last way that you can launch into the cameras on your Moto device is simply find the camera icon anywhere you have it on the screen and tap on it, and that will take you directly into the main camera interface page here. Now let's go ahead and go over some of the features and functions on the main camera interface page from top to bottom, left to right. And first things first, one of the opinions that I have to share about this setup here is I understand Motorola's desire to make everything more simplified, but I don't like the simplified layout that they decided to go with. Just like I don't like the camera layout that they decided to go with. So for those of you who don't know, maybe this is your first video on the Moto G9 Power, but the camera layout goes something like this. The secondary front-facing camera is a 16 megapixel front-facing camera. It maxes out at 1080p, 30 FPS video recording, no more, no less, at least when you're using the stock Motorola camera application. On the rear of the device, if I could talk, sorry y'all, we have a triple camera setup. We have a 64 megapixel primary camera, which by default outputs 16 megapixel photos unless you use the 64 megapixel high res mode. Okay, then we have a 2 megapixel macro sensor, and then we have a 2 megapixel depth sensor and our flash. Now, I'm not really a fan of macro and depth sensors because you can get your depth effect using software if you have the right camera algorithms, aka Google's been doing that for years. So why not, Motorola? Y'all could do that with a software algorithm. So you don't really need a depth sensor for depth information. Okay? And number two, the macro sensor. Oh no. Not a fan of the macro sensor. I apologize, y'all. The camera timed out, so it jumped out. So I'm not a fan of the macro sensor at all. You can get really nice macro shots with the main sensor on your device, or if you have a really nice high quality ultra wide sensor. So in my opinion, if Motorola was going to add more camera sensors to their device, they should have really just went with a high quality main sensor and a really high quality ultra wide sensor. All right? But it is what it is. I have no say so as to how Motorola designs and implements the cameras on their devices. I'm just sharing my opinion. But that's one thing that I don't like about this device, that camera layout and the featured cameras that are on this device. Now, let's go through the main camera interface page. So in the top left hand corner, you can see we have the scene optimizer shortcut there. So the stars, that's the scene optimizer. So you could turn it off and on, or if it detects something and you don't like it, it could turn it off. In the top left hand corner, we have a quick shortcut to our sub settings. So if you tap on this, it will take you straight into the sub settings on your device. Now we're going to cover all these sub settings last. Okay, let's get out of that. Now just below that, we have our main composition window, and directly below that, we got a shortcut for zoom. So if I press and hold on this and I swipe, I can zoom in or I can zoom out, just like that. Zoom in is swiping to the right, zoom out is swiping to the left. Okay, and then directly next to the zoom shortcut, we have a shortcut to the macro sensor. And it tells you how close you need to be with your 2 megapixel macro sensor to get a good shot. So let me do that one more time in case you missed it. Switch to the primary and then switch back to the macro so y'all can read that. Okay, not a fan of macro sensors at all, but it is there, and I do like the fact that Motorola gave you a quick shortcut to get to it. Okay, so good stuff there. Now, directly below those two shortcuts, you can see we have an up arrow, and if you tap on this up arrow, you get access to your flash controls. Okay, you get access to a timer. Now, you only have a timer in photo mode. You don't have a timer in video mode. And then you get access to your live photos, or active photos as Motorola likes to call it. Y'all pretty much know what that is. That's self-explanatory. But if you don't, it records a little bit of video before the photo is taken and a little bit of video after the photo is taken to give you that live photo effect. But it's not something I use, and as y'all will see throughout this video, the things I don't use, I turn off. Okay? Then directly below that, we have our aspect ratio. So you can shoot your photos and videos in the 4:3 aspect ratio, or the 16:9 aspect ratio, or you can go completely full frame. So take up the full screen on your device. Now by default, it comes in the 4:3 aspect ratio or 3:4 aspect ratio, and that's pretty much where I kept it at. Also, I want to let everyone know, in the interest of full disclosure, if I shot in the daytime, I primarily used the 64 megapixel high res mode. If I shot in the nighttime or a low light scenario, then I use the dedicated night mode to take the night shots. Also, a large majority of the photos were taken with the primary 64 megapixel main sensor on the rear, but for the front photos, the selfies, I did do some portraits and I did do some regular photos as well, and I'm going to show y'all how you can verify which cameras took what and how you can tell what's what. Okay, but in the interest of full disclosure, I just wanted to let everyone know that. Okay, now coming out from the up arrow, if we go to the far left, we have our Google Lens included that, but that's to the far left. And then on your far right, you have access to seeing what features you have turned on. So if I had the timer turned on, you would see that, and you can see I have it disabled, so that's why you see the stopwatch with the arrow going through it. And then if I had the flash enabled, you would see that, but because I don't, you see the little lightning bolt with the arrow going through it. So you can see what modes and features you have enabled on the device before you start taking photos and videos. Right? That's to the far left of the up arrow. Now, just below the up arrow, we have access to our shutter button. Now, if we switch over to video here, you can see that shutter button turns into a video recording button. Alright? And if we go back over, it turns back into a shutter button. Now, right next to that shutter button on the left, we got a quick shortcut to jump to our front-facing camera. How's everybody doing? Now, you can also do this by using the twist gesture on the Moto G9 Power. But if you're a type of person that likes to tap the shortcuts to get to it instead of doing the gestures, that quick shortcut is here. Now, on the right of the shutter button, we have quick access to our gallery. Now, this is where I want to verify a few things for everyone. Now, because of the way Motorola set this up, sometimes you might not know what resolution you're taking your photos at, or you might get confused as to what mode you're in. So one of the ways you can tell what resolutions you're taking your photos at, and the same thing goes for videos, is just by swiping up on the photo. So here you can see this particular photo was taken in 16 megapixel mode with the primary 64 megapixel camera. So we can verify that it was downsampled to 16 megapixels, and we can see the full resolution and the file size of the photo, along with the f-stop and the millimeter and the ISO for the photo. Okay? Now, if you want to see your video, you just do the same thing. Now, as I said, the Moto G9 Power records in 1080p, 30 FPS, no more, no less, when you use the stock camera application. So if we swipe up on the video, you can indeed verify it does max out at 1080p, 30 FPS, and you can see the file size and when that video was recorded. Now, we can also verify here when you use what cameras. So if I go over to a photo here, you can see this one, I believe I took it in high res 64 megapixel mode. Nice little shot of my car. That's my baby. I try to take real good care of her. She's not flashy. She gets the job done. It is what it is. But if I swipe up, you can see this particular photo was taken in 64 megapixel high res mode, and you can see that verification there, along with the maximum resolution size and the photo size and the f-stop and the ISO. Alright? Whereas if I find another picture here, this one was also taken with the 64 megapixel mode here. Okay? As you can see, I did a rear facing selfie with the rear facing camera to do that. But if we switch to another photo, this one right here was taken with the front facing 16 megapixel camera, and if I swipe up, you can verify it right there. So 15.9 megapixels, 16 megapixels, the f-stop, the ISO, the file size, all that good stuff is here, right? And this was a nice front-facing portrait mode photo, okay? And then we have a regular photo here taken with the front-facing camera. Y'all can see the same thing. So if ever you took a photo or a video and you're not sure which camera you took it with, or you're not sure how big the file is, all you have to do is jump into your photo gallery and swipe up, and you'll get all that necessary information. So I just wanted to verify that for everyone. Now y'all will see these photos and videos in the photo and video section. So let's get back into the main camera interface here. Alright, now just below your shutter button or your record button, you can see the two modes that you use the most recent. Okay, And in my instance, that would be the regular video mode and the regular photo mode. Now, if you tap the three dot hamburger menu down there right next to the photo mode, this is where you get access to the additional modes. So here you can indeed see that we have portrait mode. Now we have portrait mode with the rear facing camera, as well as portrait mode with the front facing camera. So if I switch it, you can see we still have access to portrait mode, and it does give you the live portrait effect, as y'all can see here. Okay, and you can adjust the blur here with this nice little shortcut, so you can have all the blur, or if you want just a little bit of blur, you can do it like that. Okay, and you get that live preview before you take the photo. So really good stuff here, and that works with the front or the rear facing camera. Also, to go along with that, we have a dedicated night mode, as I told y'all earlier, spot color, which is one of my favorites, 64 megapixel high res mode to take advantage of the full 64 megapixels on the rear facing camera. We do have a dedicated pro mode for photos, not for videos, but for photos, so you can control everything that you need to control. So white balance, focus, ISO, exposure, so on and so forth. You can control all of that here in the dedicated pro mode. And then we also have the cutout feature, the cinematograph feature, the group selfie, panorama is standard, live filters is standard. Now, talking about the video modes, we have the spot color video mode here, right? So let's say you wanted to take a video and you wanted to isolate a particular color. Like let's say we want to isolate the desk here. So let's just drag this down to the desk, and we want to isolate just that, and we want to take out everything else, and that's what it's going to attempt to do. Just drag this down here, and that's what it will attempt to do once I start recording the video, right? And the same rules apply for the spot color photo mode as well. But in terms of video modes, we do have slow motion. Now this is 720p slow motion at 120 frames per second. And you could do the slow motion with the rear facing primary camera as well as the front facing secondary camera, so you can record slow motion videos with either the front or the rear facing camera. Really good stuff there, really good stuff indeed. Alright, and then other than that, we got our time lapse and our AR stickers, and that's all we got in terms of video modes, and that's all we got in terms of modes in general. Now, if you do have any questions about a particular mode, you can see we got this question mark up here at the top. It's going to give you a nice little quick tutorial where it will answer any questions you may have, and it does a great job breaking down each mode. So you can see high res mode, standard photo mode, portrait mode, cutout mode, spot color mode. All the modes and what they do are here. The video modes, the photo modes, all the good stuff is here. So if you ever get confused, I like how Motorola laid this out. Okay, and it is a few pages. You can go ahead and flip through it. Okay, and they break down everything you need to know with the camera and how to use it. So good stuff there, indeed. Right? Alright. Now that pretty much goes over all of the additional modes. Now let's jump into some photo subsettings options here, and pretty much it's the same subsettings no matter if you're in photos or videos. Now, as I said before, let's get the bad stuff out of the way up front. In terms of video resolution controls, with the stock with the stock camera application, you really don't have any. All you have is the access over the file format. So 8.264, H.264, the standard, or H.265, the more compressed version for space. That's all you have access to controlling in terms of video. And again, you're stuck recording at 1080p 30 FPS. Okay? No more, no less with the stock camera application. Now, in terms of photo controls here, If we jump in, this is where you can indeed verify that it is a primary 64 megapixel sensor. Now, out of the box, it downsamples everything to 16 megapixel photos, unless you're using that high res 64 megapixel mode. Now, you can also downsample everything to 12 megapixels or 44 megapixels respectively, right there with the rear facing camera. And or with the front facing camera, you can do the same thing. So you can use all 16 megapixels, or you can downsample to 4 megapixel photos. Alright, right there. Then you can also see that in terms of photo controls, we got HDR controls for the front and the rear. We got mirrored selfies. We do have a watermark. Now, I did not use the watermark for the photos on this video, but you can add a dedicated watermark with a byline and the time and date that you took the photo if you would like. Okay, so that's here if you want to watermark your photos. Then if we keep going here, we can close this one now. We're done with the photo section. We do have the AI settings. So the auto capture, when it detects a smile. We got the gesture to take your selfies. We have the smart composition window that assists you to take the best shot. We got the shot optimization feature, or AI optimizer. We got a low light AI optimizer to enhance your low light performance. Now, I did leave certain things on to try and get the best performance out of the camera. As you can see, everything that I used is turned on. Everything that I decided not to use is turned off. Okay? And then you can see, moving on here, if we keep going, now we can close this. Okay? And we can close this. So if we keep going, if we go to capture settings here, you can see we got the tap anywhere on the screen to take a photo. And then we can control the twist of the wrist gesture to launch into the cameras. Shutter sound, we got our grid assist to line up to take photos and videos. We got a leveler. We got the keep the last mode that the camera was in when you close it. So if there's a particular mode that you use a lot, the camera will remember it and drop you back into that mode when you launch the cameras again. Okay? And that's all under capture settings. So we can close that now. Now, moving on, we have save and storage, and this pretty much is where you can turn on or turn off the location metadata, and I would always recommend that you turn that off, because anyone with a little bit of technical know-how can pull out your location from the metadata in the photos. It literally takes like 3 minutes in a computer. So I always recommend that you turn that off. And you can see if you do install a micro SD card, then you can control where your photos and videos are stored. So right now I don't have a micro SD card installed, so it's going directly to the system storage. But if I did install a micro SD card, I can store all my photos and videos there. And the Moto devices do give you the ability to make the micro SD card adaptable internal storage. Alright, and then last but certainly not least is the about camera section. So if you need to run through tutorials, if you're not sure your software version for the cameras, so on and so forth, that stuff is right here. Okay, and this, guys and gals, pretty much goes over all of the main camera interface settings on your Moto device, as well as the sub settings. Alright, and you can see it's all pretty much the same whether you're using photos or videos. So we still have flash control in the videos, but we don't have a timer, so I could turn it on for the front, turn it off for the front. If we switch to the rear, I could turn it on for the rear, turn it off for the rear, so on and so forth. So I will give Motorola kudos for the fact that they really streamlined their application, but I don't like the fact that they took out a lot of the ways to verify some things about the cameras. Also, I don't like the fact that they locked it down to where you can only record video in one resolution. They're kind of forcing you to sideload third-party camera applications if you want to record in different resolutions. Not a fan of that. But this concludes the camera interface software walkthrough. So now what I'm going to do for everyone is I'm going to cut in all of the photo samples, and I'm going to cut in all of the video samples as well. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give y'all my closing thoughts on the device. So as always, I hope everyone enjoys, and I will see you guys at the end of the video. Have a good one, everybody. Peace. Let's go ahead and stop. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and today in this video we're going to get into the camera testing for the Moto G9 Power. Starting off here, we're testing out the front facing 16 megapixel camera on the Moto G9 Power. This is outdoors in shooting space number 1, and this is being recorded in the maximum resolution for the front facing camera on the Moto G9 Power, which is 1080p at 30 FPS. And this is also being recorded with no external microphone hooked up. So everything you're seeing and hearing is coming from the onboard cameras and the onboard microphones on the Moto G9 Power. Nice little stationary vlog style test here. So let me know what y'all think. And this should be a relatively short camera video because the Moto G9 Power and its stock camera application only lets you record in the maximum recording resolution for the front and the rear facing cameras. So we got a maximum of 1080p, 30 FPS for the front, and we got a maximum of 1080p, 30 FPS for the rear. No more, no less. So this should be a relatively quick overall video, and as always, it should be time-stamped for your convenience. Alright, now let's spin the cameras around and get to testing out the rear-facing primary 64 megapixel sensor in the same outdoor good lighting scenario. I will be right back. I'll see y'all in a second. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the rear-facing 64 megapixel primary camera on the Moto G9 Power. Once again, this is being recorded in the maximum resolution for the 64 megapixel camera, which is 1080p 30 fps. And also keep in mind, I'll have the corresponding annotations put up in the video somewhere. This way, if I don't repeat it as often as I should, just look for the annotation and y'all will know what resolution the video is in. This is also still being recorded outdoors in good lighting, and this is being recorded with no external microphone hooked up. So let's get into the testing. Y'all know how we do. So let's start off with the pans. So right now we're in the center and we're gonna pan from here all the way through to there and back. We're gonna do this 3 times. So that's 1 right there. Okay, here we go with number 2. That's 2 right there. Here we go with number 3. And that's 3 right there. So that was the first set of tests, the pan testing. Now let's go ahead and test out the exposure. So we're just gonna have it here centered up on the tree, just like that, and we're gonna pan down to the ground. Just like that. And we're gonna go back up to the tree. We're gonna do this 3 times. Now, when we're testing exposure, we want a nice smooth transition from the lighter areas to the darker areas with minimal exposure blowout. And if it does blow out, we want the cameras to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. So here we go. Let's start the exposure test and let's do this 3 times. So panning up. Boom. That's 1. What y'all think? Going back down. Panning back up. 2. Panning back down. Up again. 3. Come on down 1 more time. Okay, so let's bring it back to the center. So real quick exposure test. What do y'all think? Now, it is a beautiful sunny day out here, so I don't know how well that test is going to be, but it gives you an idea. Let's continue on with the testing. So up next, let's test out the focusing speeds. So the Moto G9 Power does give you the ability to use continuous autofocus as well as tap to focus, as well as you do have full exposure and focus locking controls. And you can also take video or photos while in video. My mistake, I said that wrong. You can take photos while recording a video. And you also have flash controls while recording the video as well. But there is no dedicated pro mode for video on the Moto G9 Power. Okay, so let's start off testing out the continuous autofocus. We're going to use the bushes to my far left as focus point number 1. We're going to use the big tree in the center there as focus point number 2. And then we're going to use this all white pillar here off to my right as focus point number 3. And we're going to cycle through this 2 times each. And I want y'all to let me know how the cameras are doing with the focus for the particular subject. So let's get started. Continuous autofocus first. So panning over to the bushes to the far left. That looks great. Coming to the tree in the center, that also looks great. Then going to the pillar to the right, that looks pretty good. That's 1. Coming back over to the tree or the bushes to the far left, tree in the middle, pillar to the right. That's 2. All right, let me adjust my grip. Okay, and then we're going to redo the same thing with tap to focus. So bushes, tap, locked up. There's a little bit of a slow focus lock there, but it's still relatively quick. Tree in the center, tap, locked up. That one was a little bit faster than the bushes. And pillar off to the right, tap, locked up. And you can see that one's slightly overexposed in the background a little bit. I don't know if y'all could tell, but the focusing speeds were relatively fast. All right, let's do it one more time. So bushes, tap, locked up. That was noticeably quicker than the first time. Tree, tap it, locked up. And then pillar, tap it, locked up. So pretty fast focusing speeds, but this is ideal lighting scenarios. So this is where you would probably see the best overall performance. Okay. Now, before we wrap this up, we're going to do the zoom testing next. All right. So you can do pinch to zoom. So we can, my bad, I hit the exposure there, my bad. Fix that. Right about there. So you can do pinch to zoom, and you can see we can go all the way up to 8 times digital zoom, and y'all see how grainy that looks. Okay. And then with the little shortcut they have, you tap on the zoom indicator, and it takes you back out to no zoom. All right. And then if you tap on the zoom indicator again, a little zooming scroll wheel pops up, and you can slide your finger up and down to control the zoom. So really, really easy to zoom on the Moto G9 Power. So let's go through the zoom ranges. Let me use the big bush as my focal point. Let's go ahead and lock the focus. Let's lock the exposure. And to do that, all you have to do is press and hold on your focus subject, and you'll see a lock come up. Underneath it, you'll see a little indicator that says focus locked, AF, and you'll see another indicator next to it that says auto exposure lock, so EF, okay? And then you'll see the locked icon indicating that everything is locked. So now you can go ahead and dial in the exposure exactly the way you want it. And that's how it will stay. So let's get this perfect for the scene right there. And now, if I tap on the scroll wheel here and hold, we can start going through the zoom ranges. So here's 1.5 times zoom right here. Okay, and that actually looks pretty good. I don't know why it darkened up all of a sudden, even though I've locked the exposure. But the Moto G9 Power cameras tend to run a little bit darker than the actual scene. I don't know why, but y'all will see as we continue on with the testing. So this is 1.5 times zoom. Let's keep going. 2 times zoom right here. And that actually looks really good. It's just a little dark. Let me see if I adjust the exposure again, if it will stay. So there it is. And then let's keep zooming in here. So 2.5 times zoom is up next. Yeah, and it seems like every time I switch to zoom, it goes back to the auto exposure, and the auto exposure tends to run a little dark. Okay, so there's not really anything I can do about that, so I do apologize. All right, so this is 2.5 times zoom. Let's go up to 4 times zoom now. Okay, so 3.8, 4 times zoom right here. And you can see anything over 3 times, you can see it starts to get a little washed out. It's looking very pixelated through the viewfinder. Yeah. And then y'all already saw what the max zoom is, so 8 times zoom. Yeah, this is pretty much unusable. But yeah, real quick zoom test. Let's zoom out. This way y'all see how it performs through all of the zoom ranges. Now, recommendations. Recommendations are, because it's the 64 megapixel sensor is cropping really, really soon when you shoot video. So honestly, I would recommend you don't zoom in at all. You just physically move closer to your subject if you need to. But if you have to zoom in, honestly, don't go up past 1.5 times zoom. That's probably the best zoom you're gonna get because you can see it retains the detail. We got some fairly decent stabilization. Good stuff here. Good stuff indeed. All right. So real quick, front and rear facing testing for the Moto G9 Power outdoors in really good lighting here. Now let's move inside and let's do some indoor daytime low light testing with the same cameras. And then a little bit later on, we're going to do some artificial low light testing with the cameras, and then we're going to bring the video to a close. So I'll be right back with the next set of tests for you guys and gals. I'll see y'all in a second. Alright everyone, so now quickly we just ran inside and we just set everything up, and now we're testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Moto G9 Power indoors daytime low light. Okay, so starting off here, we got some stationary vlog style footage with the front facing 16 megapixel camera with no external microphone hooked up, and this is being recorded in 1080p. So let me know what y'all think of this vlog style front facing footage. Honestly, looking at it through the viewfinder, it looks really good. I like the lighting that it's been able to pull in, and I like the detail that it's getting for my skin and the skin tone. Not bad at all. Hopefully the audio is just as good as the video, and this will be really solid here. But let me know what y'all think. What do y'all think of the front-facing 16 megapixel camera on the Moto G9 Power? Let me know down below. Now let's spin everything around and give y'all an indoor daytime low light test with the rear-facing primary 64 megapixel camera on the Moto G9 Power. I will be right back. I'll see y'all in a second. Peace. Alright everyone, so now real quickly, all I did was spin the cameras around, and now we're going to get into testing out the 64 megapixel primary cameras on the Moto G9 Power. And once again, this is being recorded in 1080p with no external audio hooked up, and this is indoor daytime low light testing. Alright, so let's get started. Let's do some quick verifications here. So if I pan over, y'all can see the only thing we have lighting up the scene here today is the external light coming in through the window. So y'all can see we have no other light sources on. So it's pitch black on one side, it's pitch black on the other side because of how the camera is facing into the light. But the only thing we have lighting up the scene here today is the natural sunlight coming in through the window. Alright, so this is indeed an indoor daytime low light test. Alright, just wanted to verify that. So now let's pan everything back over, and let's set this up in the traditional reviewer style angle here. So this looks straight. Now let's pan this down, and there we go. Alright, and then let me get a little bit closer. Alright, too close. Back up a little bit, and there we have it. Okay, and let me just position this a little bit better. Yeah, the sensor on the G9 Power is cropped when you record video, so y'all can tell just how bad the cropping is right here. So if I put it on center and I put the keyboard actually in the center, y'all can see we're cutting off a piece of the keyboard right there. So I actually have to slide it over a little bit to center it up in the camera so y'all can see everything. But this is what it looks like indoor daytime low light with the rear facing 64 megapixel camera on the Moto G9 Power. Alright, now let's get into some testing here. So let's check out and do a detail test real quick. So let me hold the keyboard up. How is the camera doing retaining the detail in this lighting scenario? So how easy is the text on the keys able to be read? How sharp is that? Let me know. Let me pan it through for y'all. What do you think? What do you think? It actually doesn't look too bad. It looks a little grainy, but not too bad. Alright? So what do y'all think? How did it do with that detail test there? Now let's do some focusing tests, and then we'll wrap the video up. So, y'all know what I'm about to pull out. the trusty dusty S7 Active here. So let's see how quickly it locks up focus on the text there. That actually looks really, really good. Now it's slightly grainy, but it's still kind of legible. Let me know what y'all think. Okay? Let me know what y'all think. Yeah. Yeah. Can y'all read that? How legible is that to you guys? Look at that stipple pattern that it's picking up. AT&T's tramp stamp. Boom. Look at the nice natural shallow depth of field. Look at how blurred out the keyboard is in the background. Look at the focus on the phone in the foreground. All right, let's see how quickly it will lock focus back on the keyboard when I take the phone out. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. A little bit of a slight hesitation there, but the focusing speeds, at least to my eye, were still relatively really fast. Let me know what y'all think. Let's do this one more time. So bring the phone back in. See how quickly it locks back up on the phone. A little bit of a struggle there. There we go. We got it. Again, check out the detail or lack thereof. How sharp is that text? Okay. Now let's take it out and see how quickly it locks back up on the keyboard. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. Again, a little bit of a slight hesitation with the focus, but overall really, really quick. But that does it, y'all, for this indoor daytime low light test, testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Moto G9 Power. Let me know what you guys and gals think. Now what I'm going to do is a little bit later on, we're going to test out the front and rear facing cameras again in nighttime artificial lighting scenario. And then we're going to wrap up the coverage on the Moto G9 Power. And I'm going to give y'all my closing thoughts on the cameras and the overall camera performance. So I'll be right back with the final test in terms of the cameras for the Moto G9 Power. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Peace. Alright everyone, and now we are back in with the final set of video clips or video tests for the front and the rear facing cameras on the Moto G9 Power. Okay? And starting off or wrapping up these clips, deciding on whichever one you're going to watch first, because this will be time stamped for your convenience, we got a front facing vlog style stationary clip, and this is nighttime artificial lighting scenarios here. So I'm just going to give everyone my closing thoughts and my overall opinions on the cameras, but as always, please let me know what you think of the overall video quality as well as the overall audio quality down below. Now, once again, this is being recorded with no external microphone hooked up, and this is using the stock camera application, and it is being recorded in the maximum resolution for the stock camera application, which is 1080p at 30 FPS. So, closing thoughts on these cameras. Now, when we talk about the overall photo performance, I have to say Motorola continues to improve and do a much better job than they have done in previous generations of their Moto G Power lineup. Okay, even though this device came out before the 2020 model, I feel as though these cameras, in terms of photo performance, are slightly better than the cameras on the Moto G Power 2020. And then even still, in terms of video performance, I have to say that these cameras are vastly better than the overall video performance on the Moto G Power 2020 as well. Now, that's in terms of overall performance for video, because I know some of you guys and gals may say, how is it better if the Moto G9 Power can only record in up to 1080p, whereas the Moto G Power 2020 can record up to 4K? Okay, how is that better? Well, that, my friends, is just what we call personal preference. Some people like to record in the higher resolutions because they like that crispier content and they claim that it's better. But overall, in my opinion, and I think I've said this in other videos as well, any resolution is good as long as it's done properly. So, in my opinion, I'm okay with a really good 720p resolution, okay, as well as I would be okay with a really good 1080p resolution as long as it's done properly and the manufacturer takes the time to get the absolute best performance out of it. I'm okay with that. And I tell you guys and gals on a regular basis that one of the reasons why I record in 720p mainly is because it provides a good overall resolution and the file sizes are a lot smaller. So I'm okay with not having 4K. Okay. Now I will say this: I am a little bit disappointed by the overall restrictions in the stock camera application. Like, one, I can't adjust or see any of the overall camera resolutions. Okay. One of the ways I had to verify the camera resolutions was to take the photo and then go in after the fact and pull up the photo details where I could see the maximum resolution and I can also see the megapixel size for the camera that it was taken with. Now, I don't like that because I'm the type of person that likes to know exactly what I'm using. So now I can understand why they did it that way, because if you're an average user, you can care less about, oh, this is a 16 megapixel camera or this is a 64 megapixel camera. From an average user standpoint, I can understand why they got rid of that, because all we really care about as end users is, okay, I snapped this picture and it turned out the way I wanted it to, or I took this video and it turned out the way I wanted it to. I could share it to social media. I could send it to my family and friends. That's all we really care about as regular, common end users. All right. But for the vast majority of us, or the vast few of us, I should say, majority, who like to know those technical specifications behind things, because that way you kind of get a sense of how the camera is going to perform. Okay, I did this, it shot it in this resolution. I know that it came out with this output. So if I continue to do this, I can get a general sense of how it will overall perform. So that's one of the reasons why I like to know some of the technical specifications behind what the cameras can do. And that's also why I'm kind of disappointed by the fact that you can't readily see that information in the stock camera application. Now you can see it after the fact, but you can't see it before you do anything. All right? Other than that, I would have to say these are overall some really good cameras. Now, are they the best? Oh no, definitely not. But do they more than get the job done? I think so. Now, can I recommend this device strictly based off of the overall camera performance? Well, I would have to say yes. If you're in the market for a new device and you want a device that's going to give you phenomenal battery life, I got a little bit more testing to do. You want a device that's going to give you some overall solid performance with some really good cameras, as long as you're mindful of the lighting and what you're trying to shoot, then honestly, I can more than happily recommend this to anybody, especially if you're a fan of the bigger displays. Sure, it's not the highest resolution display, and sure, it doesn't have a high refresh rate, but it still is a very nice big display, and overall, it's a very solid device. All right, now let me spin the cameras around and one more time give you an overall performance of the rear-facing 64 megapixel camera, and then we'll bring the video to a close. All right, so let's do this one more time. I'll be right back. I'll see y'all in a second. Peace. Alright everyone, and now we are testing out the primary 64 megapixel cameras for the final time. This is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up, and this is nighttime artificial lighting scenario, okay? So let's do some real quick verifications and let's jump into the testing, alright? So if I pan the cameras over here, you can indeed see that there is no external light coming in through the window here, and you can indeed see it is pitch black outside, and I feel like a little bit of a vampire because it's 3:30 in the morning and I still haven't slept, but we're gonna get this in where it fit in at. Alright, but y'all can see it is indeed nighttime, and this is indeed the artificial studio lights that I'm using to light up the scene here this evening. Alright, and if I pan back to my TV here, you can see in the reflection of the TV, even though the camera wants to struggle and go out of focus, that I do have all of my lights turned on, and I have my studio lights set to white, and they're at maximum brightness. So this is artificial nighttime lighting here, okay? So now let's angle this up in the traditional reviewer style angle, and let's get on with the testing. Let's go. So that looks straight, even though it's out of focus because the autofocus wants to go out of focus. That looks straight. And let's pan them down. All right, that looks good. And actually, I got to back up a little bit. Back up a little bit more. Boom. And then let's angle up just a little bit. Bam. And there you guys and gals have it. So now this is in the traditional reviewer style angle for me. And now you can see how the cameras perform in this lower light artificial lighting scenario. So up next, let's do a detail check. And let's see how the cameras are doing with the detail on the keyboard here. Now that looks good. A little bit soft on the coloring, but overall that looks good. I can easily read the keys. I wish it did a little bit better with the lighting, but it is what it is. What do y'all think? And I saw a big temperature shift there. Alright, or maybe it could just be the angle that I'm looking at the viewfinder, but what do y'all think? Let me know down below. But this is more than usable in my opinion. Now, I will say this, I don't like the fact that the primary sensor is cropped. Okay, and I can tell that it's cropped because if it wasn't cropped, I would get a slightly wider field of view. Alright, and I could definitely tell that it's cropped because when I'm shooting photos, it's wider. But when I start shooting videos, it's a little bit more punched in. So that's one of the ways that I could tell that it's cropped, and I kind of don't like the cropping for that. But I think that was Motorola's attempt at providing a little bit of stabilization, even though this device, as far as I can tell, only has EIS, electronic image stabilization, but I think they tried to mitigate the lack of actual physical stabilization by cropping in the sensor somewhat. But I'm going off on a tangent. Let's keep moving on with the test here. So up next, let's do a focus test. Let me pull out one of my overall favorite devices of all time. And we're going to do a focus test here. So got the S7 Active right here, and we're going to put it in the frame. And we're going to let that focus up. And let's see how it does. Now you can see there's some big color shifting and temperature shifting going on here. How legible is that? Now this looks really, really blue to me through the viewfinder, but again, that could just be the angle that I'm looking at the viewfinder here. So I'll see in post if it actually came out this color. But how legible is the text down there? Okay. Look at that gradient. I'm seeing a lot of color shifting too. Nice shallow depth of field going on with the keyboard back there. Overall, the focus looks good. Looks good. Now let's see how long it takes to lock back on the keyboard when I take the device out. So ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Definitely a little bit of a struggle there. You saw there was a slight pulse while it locked back on the keyboard, but relatively good. Pretty good overall focusing speed. Let's do it a couple more times and see if it gets better. So bringing the device back in, and it locks up on the device, and ooh, you can see it there. It even had a little bit of a focus pulse locking back up on the device. So panning back through, checking the text there. Again, how legible is that? All right, let's take it out one more time. 3, 2, 1, go. Again, a little bit of a slight pulse there, but it did lock back up on the keyboard. Last time, because third time's the charm, and then we're going to wrap the video up. All right, so bringing the device back in. Okay, a little bit better that time. Locked up the focus. Again, nice shallow depth of field. You can see it there. Wireless charger blurred out, keyboard blurred out. But the phone itself should be in focus. Check the text one more time. Okay. And let's see. Let's take it out and see how fast it locks back on. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom, and we're back. Okay, so again, pretty much a slight pulse every time, but the overall focusing speeds are good. All right. Again, y'all have to remember that this isn't the best lighting scenario for this. Now, ideally, you would want to record in daytime and get as much light into the sensor as possible. But for what it is, it did do a good job. All right. As always, I hope you guys and gals enjoyed the content. Please do also remember that this whole video will be timestamped for your convenience. So feel free to jump around to the photo samples and all of the different video samples to your heart's content. If you enjoyed the video and or you found it helpful, please help your boy out by giving the video a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. Also, if you would like to see more content like this, please feel free to hit that subscribe button down below and make sure you click off the notification bell icon right next to it so you guys and gals get notified when I publish new videos. All right, all and everything, all and everything, any and everything that I covered on this device will be linked up down below in the video description as well. So the unboxing and first impressions and all of the packaging contents. All right. The gaming video, that'll be linked up down below as well. And any and all other coverage that I have on this device will be linked up down below as well. Or if you check out the tags available in the video description, you should see all of the relevant content that I've done on this device. And that's why I'm always sure to include one of the same tag in all of the related content. So when you click on the tag, it pulls up all of the content that I've done. All right. So please, as always, if your interest is piqued, down below in the video description will be like a one-stop shop for you guys and gals, and you should be good to go. All right. The next time y'all will probably see coverage on this device is in the full review. Now, I still have some more battery testing to do before we come out with the full review. So y'all be on the lookout for that. Hope everyone is staying safe. And I will catch everyone on the next one. Have a good one, everybody. We are out of here. Peace. Oh, man. Let me go and try and get some sleep before I get up and go to the gym. All right. Take it easy, y'all. Peace. We out of here.